This is the one and only day I wanted to murder Tom Bloom. I now want to marry him, so, you know, I've come a long way. But it was during Little Fest, and the script was in an earlier version of what it is now. And Tom was a marvelous actor, very experienced, very seasoned, and a wonderful guy to have in the room when you're developing a script. So, and he loved the part, he loved the script, he loved everything about it except Henry. And the problem with Henry was, I mean, he loved most of Henry, but the problem with Henry, he kept telling me it felt too narrative. And of course, it came from a narrative, you know, it came from a book. And Henry's part, more than any of the others, I originally had just kind of lifted from the book, because I always thought it's a first-person chapter in the book, so I thought, wow, this would make a great theatrical monologue. So a lot of it came directly from there. And Tom really helped me understand that I had to pare away my literary proclivities to make this character feel real on the stage. So we had this one day, and we're going on, and finally, I'm a very good-tempered person, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
And I think he could tell I was just getting kind of like, okay. And I didn't know if this is on my blog, actually. I wrote up this on the blog that's on the Portland Stage website. But I thought, okay, am I dealing with a really, really annoying actor, or is there some flaw in this opening monologue that I'm just not seeing? Well, guess what the answer is. So during a break, and you know, there's all these equity rules and everything, and I went over to Tom, I said, Tom, come over here on this bench and sit with me, and we're gonna rewrite this damn thing right now. And I'm sure he broke all kinds of equity rules because he was supposed to be on a break. He comes right over, he's got his pencil out, and the two of us sat there on that bench, which should be bronzed, and redid the monologue together. And it was just such wonderful, it was so wonderful to be writing with somebody who had exactly as much investment in how it would turn out as I did. So, and there were many, many moments like that throughout this whole process. It's been marvelous.
Well, and even as late as Friday, it seems like there was a discussion that was happening with Jake and about what a certain line meant.
Yes. Yeah. I changed one of Jake's. I added one little line to Jake's last scene on Thursday. This was the day before opening night, and it was about 3 hours before the preview show. But Peter Albrink is wonderful, and he was up for it. And I felt that at that point, there was just one moment that I had just never felt quite right about. And I think he felt the same. And we just added this one thing in, and it just suddenly was right. So it was, and Sally Wood, the director, told me way at the beginning, she said, I just want to prepare you. You know, we're going to be making changes to the script, like right up through previews. Like, that's not going to happen. And she was right. She was right about everything, including that.
How do you figure out what is the best medium for a story, whether it's a play or a short story or a novel, and how that changes from one medium to the next?
Oh boy, that's a big, big, fat question. Well, to the last one first about how I changed something that was in a novel to the medium of the play. One example in, you know, when you have a book, I had 9 stories, all that room to make clear what the stakes were for everybody and what the chronology of the strike is, and there were a lot of other characters in the book that don't appear in the play. So one of the things that Tom helped me see, and he was doing it from an actor's perspective, he said, I'm opening this play, why am I telling this to these people now? I mean, why now? And that's a question I ask myself a lot when I'm doing a first-person fiction, is why is this person telling this story now? And it's clear in the book what's happening, but in the play, I think he needed some kind of special urgency, and what we came up with was the idea of the Monday ruling. So this, in other words, he has this urgency of time. In 5 more days, it's over one way or another, and this is kind of his last chance to make his case. And the other thing that I didn't understand, that didn't exist in the Henry McCoy of the book, is this guy is sincerely hurt by the strike. You know, he feels as if he gave all of this to these people, that he gave them something they really needed, and they have just stabbed him in the back. And it's a wonderful thing to get into the mind and heart of somebody that, you know, as a flaming liberal union girl Democrat, I wouldn't normally see in somebody like that. And that's the thing about writing. I think every act of writing is an act of empathy. And that's what I hope that audiences get is a true, and I don't mean empathy like pity or sympathy. Empathy is really the act of getting inside somebody else's skin. Actors do it all the time. And as a writer, it's my job also to do that, to get inside another character's skin, whether that character has any resemblance to me or not. So that's what I loved about this cast, what I loved about writing this play, is the whole thing is about empathy. Because there's all these people who are suffering in different ways. And you have to, what I wanted is whoever is talking at the time, you understand them. Or you may not agree with them, but you understand where their pain and urgency is coming from.
So into the different types of media, what is the difference?
I think stories tell you what they want to be. I have this, I say this to my students, I teach on occasion, and I always say to my students that your story has an intention that you don't know yet, and it takes a while for you to figure it out. And sometimes you know right away that it's going to be a first-person, present tense short story. Sometimes you know right away it's going to be a long epic novel, and sometimes you know right away it ought to be a play. I can't really explain how you know, but it just kind of happens that way.
So how much do the characters Ernie and Marie relate to your family and to the idea of the cancer being a major issue in the play?
Wow. Well, I don't really consider any of my fiction autobiographical, but of course you get bits and pieces of not just my life, but everybody I've ever known, so beware. So little things sneak in. Ernie and Marie aren't based on any particular people, but Ernie reminds me a little bit of my husband and a little bit of my father, which is maybe kind of weird, but you know, that kind of man's man. And Marie, I don't know who, Marie probably has a little bit of my older sister in her. She's just such a good person, and she's so decent and so unfailingly decent even when everybody around her is bringing out their worst selves. That best self, it is just, that's who she is. And with Lisa's performance, you get the feeling that that's who she always was. It's not just that she understands because she's going to die that all of these things are fleeting. The most important things in our lives end with death. And so she has a really different perspective from anybody else who's in this play. And that comes through so clearly in her performance. I was very moved by all the performances, but when I see her with that scarf on at the end, hobbling up the arc and then turning around and looking, it's just such a wonderful moment for me. I mean, these characters who were just words, and now here they are. It's quite exciting.
Living, breathing people.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
You've been talking a great deal about the characterization going from the novel, the prose, into the drama. How about the narrative line within your collection of short stories being transformed into actual space and dimensions on the stage? Did you have any interesting insights to that?
That's really great because, you know, that is definitely not my talent. You know, I can't, you know, I bought some furniture last year and I got it into my house and I cried because it was just too tall. And I don't have a way of picturing things like that. My husband took it downstairs and sawed the legs off, and you know, it's all good now. But I had a bad moment. But it was a typical thing. I have a very hard time visualizing things. That's Anita's strength right here with this gorgeous set. So that's where the director comes in. And one of the things she did that I loved so much in the script at the very end, when Henry is saying, you know, my daughter had more than 2 roads, as it turns out. She didn't marry that fish fingered, also ran of a fiance, etc. And the way I have it in the script, after they have their moment, she leaves, and then he says his thing. And Sally Wood, one day I came in and I saw what she was doing, and I thought, this is so perfect. I don't know why I didn't think of it. She stays on stage hands him his coat as he transforms himself into, months later. And to have her still there, it shows the audience with no lines from her or no scene, no anything, that they're going to be okay. They're going to be, as good as they can be. And it was things like that, those visual moments that I don't do well because I'm not from the theater world. I can narrate them quite well, but I can't, this is not my thing. And that having a director with such a keen visual sense was a real blessing in this. And there were a lot of moments throughout the play that it was Sally, not me. That's not in the script. She did. It's going to be in the script now.
Well, for instance, where we go through the scrim and you see Marie and then you see him, was that originally there? I'm trying to remember.
No.
So it's images like that get added into the piece. Yes, sir.
Speaking of visuals and the end of the play, how about the beginning? That license plate, I'm so curious about. It took me a moment to realize it was a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Is that your idea?
Yeah, that's in the book, actually. Yeah, it is. And it was definitely part of the play from the beginning. And we weren't sure how to, and this is where, again, the vision people come in. In the play, when they're in the car, the license plate is there. And there wasn't an elegant way to do that. And so Anita came up with the idea of that, she came up with the idea of that beautiful piece of paper that comes up and down. I love that. And she said, what if we just project the license plate? That's what people see. They have time to kind of think about, I thought this play was about Maine. And so they have a time to be curious about it. And then when it's mentioned in the play, people know what they saw. They remember what they saw. It was neat.
And that was one of the hard parts, the car, how to get the car there and have everything that everybody needed, including the license plate. And it's like, well, how do you there's no room. And once you put a license plate there, suddenly you've got to have a full car.
Yeah.
And there's no way to do that. So it was quite a process of sorting through
I know,
all
poor
that.
Anita, she takes this play of mine, my first play, because I know nothing, and I put an ark and a car in my first play.
Yes.
I have to say, I came here feeling that I would see a really brilliant work. I didn't expect to laugh. I didn't expect to cry. I did both. It's a very, very powerful play.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Say, and excuse the pun, it's intended. The vehicle that you used to get them together, the two sides, was really amazing. It allows the whole story to be told in a brief period of time, which is what a play has. What thought process went on for you to land on the daughter, the vehicle, the ark together? It's just incredible.
Well, it doesn't all happen at once. It's just, it keeps evolving. And, one thing about plays, you don't just write it and then give it to somebody and they do it. It has to be developed. Play development, I have discovered, is a real thing. The script just keeps changing and changing and changing. And sometimes just the way an actor says a line will make me realize something that I didn't know I wrote. And it's in there, and then it's either you bring it up or you eliminate it, but it's there and I didn't know it. So it's so hard to talk about process because it's so gradual and and especially with a play, it depends on so many other people besides me, which is the beauty of it. But thank you very much for what you said. That's what I was hoping, is that people could see the full human story around something like this.
2 Kleenexes. Yes, sir.
As this play goes forward, will it have the specifics for the set design that you designed, Anita, and together with Monica?
No, most plays are set for a specific environment, and so this is for here, and Monica's text will live on, and it will be in the hands of other directors and other designers. And I think that's the beauty of our craft, is that it gives a lot of people a lot of opportunities to interpret things very differently and look at them through different lenses. And with a new cast of actors doing the roles, different lines are going to come out, And it will feel like a different show, and I think for a different place, and it will fit wherever it is next just as well, but really be specific.
Yeah,
Thank
that's her right there.
You know what I'd love to do? I'd actually love to ask Chris if he'd be willing to sort of type some of this out, and we'll put it up on a blog so that everybody, so that we can really share it with the world, because I think they are great comments, and I think they're great ideas and very worthy of acknowledgement. If you'd be willing to do that for us, that would
How
be
about maybe one more, Anita?
brilliant.
Over here?
One more here and then one in the back.
Okay.
Is there another play in the works?
Another play in the works, Monica.
Well, there's none, not in the works, but I have a novel coming out next year called The 1 in a Million Boy. And I should say something about that, because that novel, the Portland affiliate artists who are actors who make their artistic home here, they do these wonderful programs called Longfellow Shorts. And what they do is they take novels from writers they love, and they do theatrical readings, and they're so great. And so they did an evening of some of my work, and I gave them a scene from a novel that was very much in progress. It's this novel now. This was like 8 years ago. And Ron Botting, who's married to Anita Stewart, he's a wonderful actor, and he read the lines of this boy who's in the novel. And that night, I got him. I got the boy listening to this actor present him in a way I had never imagined before. And I think that's also when I got the playwriting bug. So at this point, my next thing coming out will be a novel, but I think the next thing I'm actually going to be working on will be a play, because I am so hooked on collaboration. I really am. Yeah. Thanks.
Last question.
And one more.
The background to the whole play is the strike. Can you just give us some background of how or what you did to research the strike so that you got the feelings of the people that were totally involved, that you can bring them out in character?
Well, I come from Mexico, Maine, and yay! There's always some in every audience. I love it. So Mexico and Rumford is in western Maine, and in the 80s there was a really terrible strike at the paper mill, and then a couple of years later there was another even longer strike in Jay, Maine. So the strike in Abbott Falls is based on those two strikes, which were as Ernie says in the play, they were game changers because of the replacement workers that were brought in. So I did some research, yes, but a lot of it just comes from my family. My brother was a union president, not at the time of the strike, but before that. And my father worked in the mill, my grandfather worked in the mill, my brother worked in the mill. So it's a world that I know very, very well. So yes, the research to get certain things right, but most of it came from experience. Thank you for asking.
Thank you all very much. This has been a wonderful discussion.